Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another ICP technical analysis video where I'll be sharing my short to medium term price predictions for ICP. As I get into today's video, smash that like button. Let's see if we can hit 500 likes on today's video. Really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, welcome, subscribe and stay up to date with all of the content that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Guys, let's get right down into today's video. So here we have ICP paired up with USDT. We're on the 1-day Binance chart and we've seen a pretty big slippage to the downside. Now, this is obviously right into the range that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. We've been talking about the idea of moving down somewhere between that kind of $7 to $8 range and basically a good place to dollar cost average under $10. Now, here we can see that we have slipped down right into this expected range. We did refine this towards the $7.05 to $8.30 and that slightly broader area of $6.25.9 to $8.23.9. Now, obviously, with this move to the downside being a little bit steeper than we would like, it does indicate that we're likely to see even further slippage to the downside, meaning that this is probably just a pit stop before we go down even further, meaning I am expecting some consolidation in this range, a bit of a bounce, and then more retracements to the downside. This is still a corrective pattern though, so I'm not terribly too concerned. We just have to deal with the slight overextension that's occurred here, which is looking to me anyway, like a 335 correction, which is indicated inside the C wave structure that you see here. Now, it's possible that this turns into more of a W, X, Y, X, and Z pattern, which is what will take us down a little bit deeper. Okay, so I want to kind of map out what that looks like and give you the kind of bearish potential scenarios, but also still kind of give you the idea that where we are right now seems to be a pretty decent area for accumulative, action, in my opinion. So let's refine what's going on here a little bit, right? So we can see that we have the white line coming through. This is the 200-day exponential moving average. This was support, but was lost on here on the 7th of June, right? So we lost the support on the 7th of June, and it's basically now resistance, right? What was once support is resistance. We have the yellow line, that's the 50 simple moving average, which is about to cross down lower than the 200-day EMA, and that there is known as a death cross, okay? Right in that little point right there. Now, this death cross is, of course, going to be seen negatively and bearishly by traders in the space. But what we do need to really reflect on is what the EMAs and the SMAs are actually telling us. Simply, it's showing us that the price action has been bearish recently. We got the 200 EMA, that's 200 candlesticks worth of data. Then we have the 50 SMA, which is 50 candlesticks worth of data. So basically what we're saying here is the short term last 50 candles worth as an average is now lower than the 200 candles worth of average. Basically, short-term price action is lower than longer-term price action, and that is deemed negatively. But we also need to reflect that this is incredibly laggy. It only shows us what's already happened. And although people will react, and they won't react negatively to something called a death cross, it is only really happening because it's already kind of happened, right? The current cross is only happening because of the previous price action. So this, although will be slightly bearish, I don't think we're going to see a significant drop further than what we've already seen because of it. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I know I probably didn't explain that the best way I possibly could, but we are looking at this as a 5-wave impulsive breakdown that sits inside this C wave with a 335 corrective pattern. Like I said, we could potentially go into the world of a W, X, Y, X, and Z, which is a triple zigzag pattern overall. So we want to be aware that we could slip down a little bit further. But for now, this seems to be a pretty decent area, and we're looking to finish off this little structure here before we kind of continue to kind of rally up a little bit further and then drop even more. The retracement of what I'm looking for here is going to be interesting. I expect us to kind of move out somewhere between the kind of $8.54 and $9.87. I'm going to mark that up right here for you guys so you can see. It's going to be this little range. This is going to basically be an indication that we see basically the price action drop down just a tad further afterwards. Okay, so if I go ahead and remove the fibs and run on here just an approximate level, if I take this to the highest level, it gives us the most bearish situation, and you can see that this would then target out that slightly lower range of our kind of higher range expectations or the higher time frame expectations for this drop, somewhere between the $6.33 and $7.03. Okay, so again, this kind of shows you the idea of what we're expecting. Okay, a move up and then a further move to the downside to the lower range that we were kind of talking about in previous videos. And this essentially is going to be our entire structure for a 5-wave movement to the downside like so, which will basically form inside a 335, which is an incredibly unusual and irregular pattern here because it is an overextension. But we just simply don't have 5 waves in that starting position. So we're not impulsive. We don't have the correct internal wave counts to make it an impulsive move. I know a lot of people will be looking like this, saying, oh, look, we're in a bearish situation. We're going to be heading down even deeper. But the internal workings are not there. The only way you go down even deeper in this scenario is if we actually go down in a kind of W, X, Y, X, and Z pattern, which would be a very unfortunate scenario for ICP, where we could potentially see ICP going down a lot further, which I'll go ahead and show you what that might look like right now. We'll assume that this finishes out. We have a little rally upwards, and then we talk about more of a move back towards the 750 to $5.30. One of the things that I'm not seeing is any requirement to go down any lower than that, in my opinion. But things can change in the space, so I want to be aware that things definitely are going to remain interesting for ICP on the kind of short to medium term. Unfortunately, this is, of course, bearish, where we are looking for more slippage to the downside before we kind of get into that next kind of run to the upside. And of course, you know, taking a look at everything else that's going on here, if we bring up smart money concepts, we can see that we are in some bearish territory for ICP as well. Okay, so we are looking, unfortunately, with a weak low, strong high, equilibrium just above the 50 EMA, 50 SMA, and 200 EMA, bearish characteristic change. So ICP is in a short-term correction. I know it looks like it's a little bit more aggressive, but it is a short-term correction in my opinion. And yeah, we are unfortunately still looking for more slippage to the downside when it comes to ICP. But like everything on the daily time frame, we can have a look through slightly different lenses. If we bring up our stochastic RSIs, you can see that we have got reset momentum on the weekly, daily timeframes, indicating that although we might see a little bit more volatility to the downside, we are getting ready for a bit of a run to the upside on a macro scale. So again, I'm not terribly too concerned here. If we take a look at our divergence indicator, you can even see the relative strength index, which is less sensitive to price movements, is down in the oversold area right now. Last time that we were down here, this was in September of 2023. For reference as to kind of what happened back then, you can see that this was basically where we were bottoming out before a fantastic run to the upside. Every time we've had some kind of major correction here, we've had a bit of a run to the upside. This major correction that we have seen is basically now showing us with an oversold stochastic RSI, and I think an end of a correction from an Elliott wave theory point of view as well. Our volume profiles are also quite interesting. They have been dropping off, going down lower. So basically, as prices corrected down, volumes have also dropped, and basically shows us that there's not a huge appetite for selling at these prices, although there isn't a lot of demand either to soak up that supply. So until demand comes in, we probably are going to consolidate and continue this slippage to the downside, but it shows that there isn't really a huge appetite for selling at the moment either, and that's a huge positive. So on the daily time frame, expect volatility. I don't think there's anything else to really say at this stage on that daily time frame, so let's roll this up into the weekly. The weekly is, of course, still looking very bullish, and that's for the obvious reasons that we're still in really early stages of a bullish market, in my humble opinion. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. They've seen a few altcoins, meme coins doing well, but essentially, ultimately, many altcoins that have true utility haven't actually done much at all. And really, if it wasn't for Bitcoin's ETF, we wouldn't have seen Bitcoin hit new all-time highs either. So with Ethereum ETFs kind of looming and some other stuff bubbling in the background, I do think a full-blown crypto bullish market is coming. I do think we need to see a few things fundamentally from a US economy standpoint first, but we are showing some serious progression with things moving in the right direction. This correction for ICP does feel a little bit harsh maybe for many, but for me, it looks like a pretty standard one in my humble opinion. If we do retrace down to a low of around $6.36, which is on the more bearish side of things, we are still looking for progression up towards $46 to $74 and potentially even higher. If we were to hit $159, we're in an impulsive breakout situation where we'll see significant surges to the upside overall. So for the most part, everything on ICP on the weekly time frame isn't actually that bad at all. From our stochastic RSI also being in this oversold area, it's been down here for quite some time. Pretty much we entered this area in April of 2024 and we remain in that oversold area. Now things are lining up quite nicely across the different timeframes, so it's come to keep a close eye on. The relative strength index is still correcting down, and again we have seen reversals much earlier in its cycle from here. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we're going to continue this trend, which if I draw a trend line on, I will show you. coming in here where we're finding support on this trend line before we rally to the upside. There's no need to completely go into the oversold area, but I would prefer it to kind of consolidate down and come into the oversold area for more momentum shifting to the upside and over a longer time period. So for the most part, everything on the weekly time frame is looking pretty good. We can see serious progression to the upside, some pretty good growth. If we were to see this low, then we're talking about a rally of somewhere around 600 to 1,000%. And if we do get to that impulsive trigger point, we're talking about 2,500% in terms of gains before we even reach that that trigger point for making an even bigger explosive move to the upside, where again we can talk about those potential runs even higher. So for ICP, things aren't actually that bad. I know it feels rad, but it's a great place to be accumulating, in my opinion, on those kind of decent pullbacks that we have seen most recently. Guys, you can let me know what your thoughts are on all of this in the comments down below, and what are your price predictions for ICP in that next big run to the upside. Let me know down below. And if you have found today's video useful, smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe and check this video out and stay well up to date with everything else that's going on in the crypto space.